Hello, my name is Serrano Keith Baldew, and welcome to the Texas Justice Review. Before I broadcast this show for you today, I called a friend of mine in New York, and I told him, I kind of ran the show by him and told him what I discovered as a publisher in the judicial system in Dallas. And I kind of explained what I was going to publish today. And the first thing out of his mouth was, they carry guns, right? And you're probably going to get killed. And I said, you know what? At this point, I got nothing to lose. I had a newspaper that went after public corruption. If you Google my name, you will see the battles that I fought with judges and politicians just like these. And they did go after me. They called up their friends in the media to try to distort stories and make me look bad, and I didn't care. Because when judges act in a manner that is unlawful and illegal, somebody has to stand up. Now, I've been trying to, when I was a publisher of politicians, I tried to find out who was the authority that when they commit crimes of fraud that you go to. You go to the FBI, you go to the Attorney General, you go to the District Attorney's office, you file a personal claim for injury. So I'm trying to figure out in Dallas when these judges, and these, so far, in my opinion, happens to be some of the most dangerous judges. Yep, I can honestly tell you that I have encountered. Now, they're not dangerous in the fact that they can take a gun and shoot you in their courtroom. They're dangerous in the fact that they can use their authority to destroy your life. And they can call up their friends, and their friends can call them up and say, hey, steer this case back to me. I need it. I need to punish this guy because he filed criminal charges against me, blah, blah, blah. Right? So that's why I deem them dangerous, because they can use their position. And even though the law prohibits them from using their position to help one another, they do it anyway. But who's investigating? So I had a situation when I ran for city council in Dallas where my opponent, who's the current person there, Kathy Stewart, had illegally put information on her docket, on her application, a one-page application. And I told the city, and I said, look, this is illegal. She's blocking off this. You don't know where she's living. This is an illegal address. And they told me they had no governing authority to investigate in order to remove her. They could have removed her, but they don't have nobody to investigate this. And she won. And she's there illegally because the information was incorrect in her form. The same thing with these judges. Who do you go to when these judges are helping one another, steering cases for one another, knowing that they're their buddies? So I'm going to bring in a board here and do some math for you, but I want to explain who these people are. This is Judge Michael Smith. He's a criminal court judge who came out of the prosecutor's office. And this is the chief judge. He's a Democrat. He's a liberal. He's a Republican, and he puts him in his position. So the people say he's not a real Republican. He's just, does that to get to the position from Abbott. So he puts him in a position in family court. He's a criminal court judge. And the law states you cannot be in a court where you do not have the applicable training in that law. And he still put him there anyway. So he's making money. He's an associate judge. Means that he's a floater and you can apply him any way you want, just that he has to be specialized in that court. And guess whose courtroom he ended up in? Mine. And I am a publisher. Right? You think he'd learn his lesson. He didn't care. The law also said that he cannot interfere. If he comes into family court, you can't interfere with the proceedings. You can't interfere with the negotiations. You can't do any of that. And I showed him the law. He doesn't care. The law doesn't apply to me. I'm a criminal court judge. I'm going to do whatever I want. Can't, but he does. So he gets into trouble, and criminal charges were filed against him with John Cuso's office, and they said that they're friends with him, so they can't prosecute him because he's their buddy. So that's the first line of buddy system. He can't be prosecuted. He's got all kind of criminal charges of abuse of office, official oppression, misuse of office, and I'm going to read one. It says, with the intent to obtain a benefit for himself and another, or with the intent to harm and defraud another, intentionally or knowingly did commit an act relating to his office but constitution unauthorized exercise of his office. So he was abusing his office to try to please the spouse because he was upset that somebody triggered his ego. That's why he's ruling. He was ruling by ego. I'm upset. I'm going to teach you a lesson. No law here. So who governs this guy? Who puts him in his place? Who tells him what you're doing is illegal and wrong? Who? And that's what I set out to find out. So I went to Ray Wheless' boss, and I filed a motion to recuse him. He said, I'm not recusing him because he was in the jurisdiction of his duties. And I said, no, he was not. When a judge makes a mistake, or when they wrongly interpret the law, that's when they have a protection. But when they viciously, knowingly, and willingly go after somebody and use their position to do it just because they don't like him and they want to teach him a lesson, that's when Ray Wheless should have walked in and says, listen, I can't have you do that. If you ruled one thing, but you're punishing this guy, you can't do that. And he should have removed him, but he didn't. So a recusal was filed against both of them. And she got in the picture. This is Kim. We just did a video on her. So he hired her. The recusal is now against both of them. And he's telling her, I want you to rule over me, and I want you to rule over him and have it dismissed, allegedly have it dismissed. So she comes on the case. Well, he's her boss. He gets her jobs. She's an associate judge as well, Kim Cook. So why would you put somebody that you control over a case that is about you and your buddy here? Well, she got on the case and she denied the motion to remove both of them from the family case, puts them back on. And the abuse began, the fraud began on the spouse, me. So the criminal charges can't go anyway because the prosecutor's office is holding it. They're holding it. They don't want to send it out to another county. They do not because that's their buddy, right? So that's in itself is a problem. So he was hit with fraud, right? But I don't think he knows this yet. But here's the attorney that's starting all this crap. This woman's name, she's like the nexus of everything, her and the spouse. So her name is Veronica Warner. She's filing anything she could. Crap against the wall. Just see if it sticks, see if it sticks, see if it sticks. Come back to court, come back to court, come back to court. But he knows that every time he comes back to court, he makes money because he's a visiting judge. So he wants to come back to court. And I told him to stop it. You need to stop dragging people back into court. This is too much. He was just there yesterday, and he got pissed off because I told him, maybe you need to recuse yourself. And that's when crap hits the fan, right? So now he's out for blood. So he's using her. He's using this lawyer, file this and file that, and we'll get him here, we'll get him there, we'll get him there, right? So, and I'm calling them out on it. I know why you're doing it. You're doing it because you want to drag me back in court so you can file this and file that and file this and file that. And I know that you're doing it frivolously and falsely. So, default judgment was filed against him. He doesn't know about it yet because you can't enforce. When you file a complaint to certain authorities, you can't tell the party because they want to do their own investigation and they want to catch him. So the lawyer there that I just showed you, she goes and she files a vexation claim that I sued her and I sued the spouse, but I didn't sue him yet, right? But he's also part of the fraud. So if you're part of the fraud, you can't be anywhere next to the claim that I filed before. Who? His buddy. I didn't know this guy was his friend. Judge Hoffman was close friends with Snipes. And Judge Maria, where is she? This lady here, Judge Maria, she's close friends with Hoffman, close friends with Snipes, and I did not know that this triangle exists. So the case with the spouse goes before Hoffman, the fraud case. The case with the lawyer goes before Maria Aceves, right? Two fraud cases, two different things. And the case with him went somewhere else. So 3 people in fraud. And so I already tried to prosecute. I already tried to chief judge. And the prosecutor actually did tell me, look, file a complaint with the State Board of Judicial Conduct and we'll take it from there. No, you're not going to take it from there. He's your buddy. Or maybe they just wanted to say, hey, if they're going to charge him, then we're going to charge him. I don't know. So anyway, Maria here, she gets the case. And then Hoffman gets the case. And somebody else gets this case. I'm not going to say who yet. So the lawyer that I just showed you filed a vexatious claim because I filed 2 claims in another court. And she wants him in family court to rule in the vexatious claim. So I said, okay, I'll show up. I don't want to, but they're dragging me back into court again. Now, a vexatious claim is done by a pro se person, And you have to show at least 5 times they've done it and they've repeatedly doing it, and they just are a nuisance. This was one filing, right? And he heard the 2 cases already. The lawyer brought it before him. And he listened on July 10th to the vexatious claim. And he said, listen, the guy is a defendant. I can't give you a vexatious claim on a defendant, okay? So he dismissed it in like 2 seconds. And the case had to go back before Hoffman, and the case had to go back before Maria Aceves, the lawyer, the spouse, and the lawyer, right? The lawyer is before her. So it goes, and the lawyer, this judge, her name is, I'm going to bring her up because it's crucial to bring her up. So this judge here, Maria Aceves, gets the case, and she sets a scheduling order, trial, everything else, right? And I explained to her what the case is about. And she scheduled everything, and then she told the lawyer that your response is not applicable, or your 1-page response is not applicable, and send back the case for the lawyer to respond. You got to respond properly. 3 times she sent it back to the lawyer to respond. The lawyer didn't respond, so it goes into default judgment. The lawyer's lawful firm also did not respond. So that's an automatically default in the judgment, right? So default judgment on the lawyer's business completely, and on her because she failed to answer in the manner that was supposed to be answered by this Maria here. And Hoffman now gets the spouse case. So I go there on the 11th, right? October 11th. I show up. I filed a motion for default on the spouse. And we go up, and he says, oh, yes, it's a family court case. I said, no, it's not a family court case. This is a case for fraud. We went back before Judge Snipes here, and he knows about this case. If he wanted to take this case, he would have taken this case, but he said he doesn't have jurisdiction based on fraud. He's family court. Family court judges can only decree the divorce and settle what you settle. They can't take fraud cases. So he said he called him in front of me in the court. And I was like, you're calling this guy? I didn't know they were buddies. So he calls him, and he's telling, and I tried to explain what the case was about. And she gets up, and she's just reading this letter that the lawyer wrote, evidently, calling me all kind of stuff, talking about my business in New Jersey, nothing about the divorce or the fraud, but business, about I was fighting political corruption, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, so I asked for a copy of the letter. He said no. I asked him for a copy. Now, when he walked into the courtroom, you can automatically see the prejudice. He took one look at me, he took one look at her, and you can see the disdain for me. I think it's my ethnicity. I think it's a white person with green-eyed blonde hair, and here's a minority guy, and I got to give it to her because that's who I am. And you can see it, you can feel it. I can feel this stuff. And anyway, so he calls Michael in front of me, right? And I know Michael, and he says, but isn't he a criminal court judge? This is a divorce case, but isn't he a criminal court judge? And I said, exactly. Was a criminal court judge doing in a family case? And he got wind of that. So Michael calls him back during the proceedings. They're not even hiding this stuff. They're not even hiding this corruption. He calls him back during his proceedings, and they went and asked him to come off the bench, and he went off the bench into a private room so they can have a secret conversation about me. That's right. 2 judges conspiring because he wants to take back, he now wants to defer the fraud case that he didn't want before, said he didn't have a jurisdiction, so he can have it blocked and dismissed. Because if the fraud case goes through, it implicates him as the instigator of the fraud. That's what it does. So he takes the case, so I leave, and I'm like, what? So here's the code of conduct from the state. And it says, a judge shall comply with the law and shall act in all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. A judge shall not allow any relationship to influence judicial conduct or judgment. He allowed his relationship to this guy, their buddy system, to take a fraud case and send it back to family court where he's a criminal court judge to help him because he knows that he's charged also with the fraud. It will implicate him. And if that wasn't bad enough, on the 30th of September, this judge here, She's new. Her name is Rachel Craig. She just got appointed to the position earlier this year. Rachel Craig, right? And I liked her. I spoke with her. She seemed to care about minority rights. And she seemed like a decent judge. On Friday, I spoke to him about Snipes, his friend Snipes. On Monday, what's the name? Judge Craig had my default case. Because what happened was the lawyer's business did not respond. That's an automatic default. That's $250,000 off the bat. I get that. But she also had another case where this judge has sent back the one-page response from the lawyer and says we are rejecting it. That went into default as well. So I had another default against the lawyer that you just saw, right? So Judge Craig is holding it. And on Friday, after I spoke to him, she's holding it. She was supposed to make a decision on the 30th of September. But I wrote her and I said, look, you're making comments about you're not going to do a default on people that answered. They didn't answer, and I showed them how they didn't answer. And now she has that, so she's been holding it. The Friday after I spoke to him, he sends his case back to him that he said he didn't want in the beginning because he's family court. The case that she was holding, application came from Maria, signed, that the case is sent to him, not back, to him, because it was never in front of him. She sent in the case to him, citing a rule called 108. So here's what Rule 108 is, and nobody can dispute me on this. Rule 108 is when the defendant, who is the lawyer that you saw, is answering a complaint. At the time of answering, they have to bring up that the case that he has with the spouse is related to the case that she has, and both cases are similar. And because they are similar, you have to join both cases under Rule 108. And guess what? The lawyer never made an application to send it back, which is what the law requires. I never told Judge Maria that there was another case. I didn't tell Judge Craig there was another case relating to this one. They was ready to rule in the default, to dismiss it, whatever they wanted to do. But all of a sudden, after I spoke to Hoffman, who's a friend of Maria and now a friend of him, by the way, Judge Hoffman swore her into office. So his buddy system with Michael Snipes kicked in. I mean, it just kicked in. So supposedly, after he spoke to Snipes, Snipes told him, steer the case back to me because it's going to make me look bad now if you go through the trial. Then I believe that Hoffman called her, who he swore into office, and said, look, I need you to kick this case back to Snipes, citing 108. And it was signed by Maria. I filed this, and I'll give you the case number. So you can go read it yourself. Well, by the way, you can't read it because maybe you can read this one. So the case with the, it's case number CD 2408365. Read my response to 108, and you will see that it was illegal for her to send the case back to him because there was no connections between the lawyer. I mean, the lawyer and I are not family members. We're not related in any way. And I even showed her a letter the lawyer wrote, I have nothing to do with you and your spouse. I'm independent. So if you're independent and you're a lawyer and I'm a civilian and I sue you for fraud, that doesn't go back to this case. And nothing in the fraud case family court covers. Only civil court covers the fraud and harassment and suing for all these stuff and abuse of her judicial license and things like that. He doesn't have authority over that. He has no authority in family court over that. But she, in order to protect him and satisfy her friend here, send it back to him. And I sent back my response. I said, no, you're wrong. You're wrong in that. You cannot send back a 108, a Rule 108 to him when there's no relations. He's in family court. Family court has one-page laws and has nothing to do with fraud on a lawyer and me. So what happened today, which is, Alexa, what's the date today?
It's Wednesday, October 23rd.
Wednesday, October 23rd. I get a motion filed by the lawyer, again for another vexatious claim. Now, this is what I think is happening. This judge is speaking to the lawyer. They are communicating. And there are legal authorities that can find that out, even if they delete it. I believe that he's communicating with the lawyer somehow. And he's telling the lawyer, listen, do another, now that the case is in front of me, I want you to do another vexatious claim because I need a date to bring it back. I need a reason, an excuse to quickly get a court date to bring it here so I can use my false authority to dismiss your judgment, because I have a judgment against the lawyer. I have a judgment against a business because there was two defendants. She was a defendant and the business was a defendant. The business never answered within the 21 days until the Monday. So that's a default on me, $250,000. But they sent it back to him, even though he was part of the fraud. So the judge is part of the fraud, is getting the fraud case. The third one. So it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense if you have a buddy system going on, you're having a secret conversation, a back room about me, with me, and on the same day you send the case back, the wife case back, and then you send the lawyer's case back to him when he's the one that was causing the fraud. If you're the judge causing the fraud, why do you have the fraud cases sent back to you? And you're in family court. And family court is very limited in its access. It can only sign the decree of a divorce, and after the party disagrees on stuff. Why is the fraud case sent to him? It was 21 counts of fraud. I gave you the number. It is DC 24-08365. Read it. It's easy. Just go to the county website, enter that number, and you can read it. You can see my application, and my defense of rule number 103 actually applies to me. If I make an application before Judge Maria, and I didn't say it was a relating case, and the other defendant did not object to it being a relating case, then it's not a relating case. The other defendant, Victoria Warner, took this case before Michael Snipes and never said it was a relating case. She just said, charge him with vexation because he's suing me. That's what she said. Never said that. Never said it to Maria. So how does Maria know? How does Maria know if the lawyer didn't tell her and if I didn't tell her? And the only other person that knew was Judge Hoffman. He was the one who brought it up. He was the one who called Michael Snipes, and he was the one, I believe, called her and said, send it back because I need my friend protected. So this is what's going. This is case steering. Oh, by the way, Judge Michael Snipes, when he was in the prosecutor's office, was accused of case steering himself. Read it up. Michael Snipes, prosecutor's office. Just Google it, and it will show you a story how they were doing case fixing in the prosecutor's office itself. He was also involved in getting on my case, because that's another case steering. There are 7 female judges in the family court in Dallas. There's a reason for female judges, because we don't trust male judges getting upset and getting their testosterone going and beating up on people. We got rid of them. So 6 black judges. I got none, and I'm a minority. 1 white judge who opens up the door, family court, for him to come in the back door and sit on a case with me. A publisher who go after public corruption. And instead of him saying, look, I don't want to go after a publisher. I know I hate this guy because he says he's trying to block me from making money. He's said this about me. But do I really want to go up against a publisher? Do I really want to pick a fight with this guy? What he did, and he doesn't care. Problem with him, and he doesn't care. He's breaking laws. He's making false motion hearings just so he can use his power to punish. So the hearing that I believe that he told the lawyer, Victoria Warner, after the default judgment case, I have a default judgment on this woman. I have it. They just have to sign, but they don't want to sign off on it because he needs the lawyer to go to trial next month. And if that lawyer is convicted and charged or whatever, he doesn't get another lawyer to take this case to trial because no lawyer wants to help him break the law. This one does because she's made about $50,000 bleeding the marital funds already. So everything she files is $2,000, $5,000, and she keeps doing it. He makes money when he goes to court. She makes money. He makes money. She makes money. He makes money. She makes money. And that's why they keep forcing these cases back into court and trials and things. You know what the trial is about? It's dividing 2 401ks. So a $40,000 trial to the lawyer, she gets paid $40,000 to go to a trial to divide 2 401ks that's under $100,000. So she is pushing the trial. Instead of making an application to the judge, hey, you gave us everything else, Why don't you just give us the split the 401k? But no, I did a motion for the trial before they stole all the money and extorted it out on June 10th. The trial was supposed to be to block them from stealing all that stuff, but the judge set aside the trial so he can go in there and give them everything. So then what's the purpose of the trial? To split up a 401k? You can do that just like you did the other thing. But he makes money. She makes money. People make money. And that's why they keep pushing the trial more and more and more. The final thing is a 401k. We don't need a trial for that. What I wanted the trial for is to stop him from helping the lawyer extort money. So this is the buddy system that goes along. He's protecting him. She's protecting both of them as an associate judge. She's not up for election in the appeals court. What a nightmare that would be. He's friends with him, with her, and with her. This is a whole buddy system going on here. So you piss him off, he calls him up in front of me. You know, the conversation took place in front of me. And then they took it in the back room about me. Hey, send this case back to me. So if the prosecutor has any guts to send this to Tarrant County or somewhere he should be charged, if the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Department of Justice, if Ken Paxton wanted to get this guy and her and all of them into one claim, they can. They can prosecute all three of them for abusing their office, and the evidence is right there. Why would you call him in front of me and then have a secret conversation, and all of a sudden your case went back to him on the same day, and then her case, Maria's case, went back to him on the next day? She's been sitting on this case. She had a trial going on for next year. Evidence was supposed to be done. Discovery was supposed to be done. But as soon as the conversation between him and him took place, her case just got automatically sent back with no reasons, while I'm sitting on a default judgment against the lawyer. So they wanted to block the default judgment because the lawyer is on the divorce case. The lawyer is on her fraud case, and the lawyer is helping the spouse with her fraud case. She's on 3 different cases, and he still has her on this case going to trial for a split of a 401k that's not necessary. Because what I wanted the jury for was what he blocked in the first place. So this is the corruption that you see in the Dallas judiciary, and there's more of them. I have 9. I'm just showing you the 6 because I can prove the fraud in the 6. Especially I can connect his phone call with him, and then the same day it goes back, and he already said this case is not his, go back to that court and file the vexation over there. The lawyer's filing the vexation back in front of him, but he already said I'm not going to do that. Why didn't the lawyer come back and file a vexation against him? Because that is the new case. Against her, that is the new case. He already said he doesn't have jurisdiction, so why is she redoing a vexation on him? As the case goes back to him, he still knows I was just a defendant. So what he's trying to do now is to say, well, you know, these 2 cases are now before me, and now that I have the cases before me, I'm going to do the vexation against you, $10,000, whatever. This is their plan. This is their plan. This is their goal. He's been trying to get me, but he's not going to get me. You know why? Because even if he punishes me, whatever punishment they do is evidence in a federal case against them. Every punishment that they enact, every scheme that they connect with one another, every friendship against the rule of law, that it says that the judge shall not allow any relationship to influence judicial conduct or judgment. He clearly showed his relationship when he had his buddy system call him in front of me on speed dial. And then went in the back and had a private conversation with him, and then all of a sudden the case goes back to him. The application I made before Judge Hoffman was that the person was in default. That was the only thing that was supposed to be decided. But he walked in, and he didn't even care about that. He was like, yeah, well, she did answer even if it's a fraudulent letter. There was no answer. When you do 19 counts on somebody, they have to answer each one of the counts. A general denial of the counts is not sufficient, especially when that was in a relating case. You talk about relating case. In a relating case with the lawyer, her letter was denied and rejected. Relating case with the spouse, she submitted the same letter, only changed the signature, and that case can't be accepted because they're a relating case. If one Maria rejected the 2-page letter, why did Hoffman accept it? Why? When you talk about relating case then on rule number 1.08. 1.08 fails in the application to send the case back to Michael Snipes. 108 succeeds in the application for me to keep the case before Maria, because it says if the person filing the case does not report as a relating case and the defendant, who is Victoria Warner, did not bring it up at the time she answered that this is a relating case, then what stands in the law is the person filing the case most likely knows this is not a relating case, and that's the law that stands. So why did Maria violate that law? Because it's a buddy system. It's one system of corruption helping one another. Him helping her, her helping him, they all helping each other. And I'm going to do each one of these separately. I did her, now you're going to hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Listen, they may drag me, they want to drag me back into court, and that's why they did a double vexation case, because he needs this case back. I want to put this on the record. Alexa, what's the date today?
Today is Wednesday, October 23rd.
He and the lawyer is working together. He needs the lawyer on the case, even though she's on 3 different cases. Because first, no lawyer will take a case with him to trial, because they would have to lie and deceive me, right? He needs her to bring he needs her to file the vexation claim, but they don't care about the vexation claim. This is the trick. What they care about is getting the case against the lawyer before him, getting the case with the spouse before him, and now saying, well, you know, Judge Hoffman sent this case to me, and Judge Maria sent this case to me, so now it's in my jurisdiction, and based on the vexation, I'm dismissing both cases. That's the trick. That's what Judge Michael Snipes wants to do. And that's why he's conspiring with the attorney, Victoria Warner, to just do a vexation claim. And when he comes in, then we're going to hit him with the dismissals on both cases. And now we have him back in family court. And now we can screw him at the jury trial. That's the plot. That's the scheme. That's the plan. He's illegal on the case. She's illegal on the case because she's defending 2 other cases relating to the fraud case. And he still has her there. Because they're conspiring because he's still pissed off at me. But it doesn't matter, because as long as I'm here, I'm going to be on him for what he's done to me. He's basically ruined my life. He's basically stripped me of all my rights and tells me that my wife, I'm a devout Christian, can go have sex. This is a liberal judge. She can have sex with whoever she wants to. I will give her everything, and he did. And he said that's Texas law. I don't think it's Texas law. I think it's his law. This is Serrano Keith Belgio. My time is up. Thanks for watching, thanks for trusting, and bye for now.